Hi folks, and welcome to this video on GCSE English Language Paper 1. Today we are looking at question 3. Now for this particular video, make sure you're doing the AQA specification with the exams from summer 2026. And question 3 says to use the whole source is from the beginning of a novel. How has the writer structured the text to create a sense of fear? Now that word how is really important. It always tells us that we need to analyse. So if you see it in a question, you need to identify the writer's methods and then explore why the writer has used those particular methods. And the methods we're going to be looking at today are structural methods. You might be slightly more comfortable with looking at language methods, but hopefully in this video, I'm going to demystify what the exam paper means by structure. And then it gives us something to focus on. So it's about how Dickens has created a sense of fear. There's 8 marks for this question, so I'd be looking for about 3 paragraphs and you'd have about 10 minutes to write your answer. So what does it mean to analyse structure? Well, first of all, we need to think what structural method has the writer used, and then what is the effect of this method and why has the writer used it? And if you've downloaded the knowledge organizer from my website, amysmithliterature.wordpress.com, you will see that structural methods are things that are bigger than a sentence. So while a language method might be smaller than a sentence, so a simile or a metaphor or a bit of personification, an adjective, for example, a structural method is the big picture. This is the building blocks of the text. And here, the most helpful way to think about it is beginning, middle, and end. At the beginning of a text, a writer will probably introduce or establish a character, the setting, the atmosphere that they want to create. They'll focus on something in particular. They might begin in the middle of a story. In the middle of the text, we might see a shift in place, time, focus, atmosphere. We might have some juxtaposition with the beginning, or we might have a writer who's building an idea that's established at the beginning. If we look at the end of the text, again, we might have a shift in place, time, focus, atmosphere. Again, we might have juxtaposition with the beginning. Again, the writer might be building an idea established in the beginning. We also might have a circular structure. So that's where the text ends, where it begins. And we might have a cliffhanger ending where it's quite open-ended. We don't know what's going to happen next. In terms of the whole text, you might also think about chronological structure. So are the events told in order and why? Is there a flashback or a flash forward? Is there a motif, a repeated symbol or word that links the whole text together? Now you might be thinking that's an awful lot of methods that I need to remember. And we won't necessarily see all these methods in every text, but you're probably going to see maybe 2, 3 more, a few more of them in every text. What I'd suggest you do is make yourself some flashcards with structural methods beginning on the front and then the list of methods on the back, structural methods middle on the front of the next one, the methods on the back, structural methods end on the front, and then the list on the back, and so on. If you think that flashcards don't work, then I suggest that you watch my video on how to use flashcards, because it's all about how to use that as a really effective method to memorize the key information for these papers. Okay, so let's get into it. One thing that we can do to help us identify these structural methods is to divide the text into sections and then to label each section. Now I've got a quick hack for this, and actually we did this in the first video of this series. In that video, I said, I'm going to ask you to do something. You might be tempted to skip this step, but don't skip it because it's going to help us later on. And I really hope you didn't skip that step, because this is it. We put boxes around the sections identified for question 2 and question 4, and then we use the key words for question 2 and question 4 to label those boxes. So if you have a printout of this and if you followed my instructions, your text should have 2 boxes labelled the way they are on my screen. So we've got the beginning of the text, which is about establishing and introducing the landscape. And then we have the middle and end of the text, which is about introducing this frightening and powerful character, the stranger who comes to try and rob Pip. So hopefully you did that. And if you didn't, go back and do it now. Let's think about the beginning in a little bit more detail then. So we know it's about the landscape. But what else can we say about this? Well, if we use the list on the knowledge organizer, we can kind of turn that into questions to ask ourselves. So A, which characters are established or introduced? B, how is the setting established? C, how is the atmosphere established? D, what is the writer focusing on? And E, does this begin in the middle of the story? Okay, pause the video, answer A, B, C, D, and E, and then start the video again when you're ready. Right, here are my answers. Which characters? Pip is a small boy, he's afraid, he's vulnerable. The setting is ominous, oppressive, threatening, isolated. We talked about that for question 2. The atmosphere is threatening, there's fear, there's anxiety. The writer focuses on the landscape. Does it begin in the middle of the story? No, absolutely not. Let's look at the middle again. So this is a section where the frightening and powerful character is introduced. And again, on the knowledge organizer, I've got some ideas about the middle of the text that we can turn into questions. So A, is there a shift in place? B, is there a shift in time? C, is there a shift in focus? D, is there a shift in atmosphere? E, does this juxtapose with the beginning? Or F, does it build on an idea established in the beginning? Stop the video, jot down your answers, come back when you're ready. Here we go. Shift in place? No. Shift in time? No. Shift in focus? Well, the focus shifts to the introduction of the frightening man, and this builds fear. Shift in atmosphere? The sense of fear increases. Does it juxtapose with the beginning? Not really. It's kind of building on that. F? Yes, it builds the sense of fear. Right, let's have a quick look at the end. Again, I've taken the little section from the knowledge organizer and I've made some questions from that. So A, is there a shift in place? B, is there a shift in time? C, is there a shift in focus? D, is there a shift in atmosphere? E, does this juxtapose with the beginning? F, does it build on an idea established in the beginning? G, is there circular structure? And H, is there a cliffhanger ending? So it might seem like a lot. Actually, a lot of these questions are repeated, aren't they, for the middle and the end. So stop the video, jot down your answers, come back when you're ready. Here we go. A, shift in place. Well, Pip is turned upside down, so it's not really a shift in place, but he's seeing it from upside down. Shift in time? No. Shift in focus? Well, the focus is now on Pip's terrified reaction to the frightening man. Shift in atmosphere? Does the fear lessen a little bit at the end? Possibly, possibly not. Does it juxtapose with the beginning? Not really. Does it build on an idea at the beginning? Yes, Pip is even more frightened. Is there circular structure? Yes, we've got the graveyard at the beginning and at the end. Is there a cliffhanger ending? Yes, where is the man going? What will he do next? Is Pip still in danger? So now we've thought through all of that, here's an example answer. Now yours would be longer than this, you'd have 2 or 3 paragraphs, but this is the kind of thing the examiner is looking for. So it says, Dickens begins the text by introducing the landscape as a threatening, ominous space where the isolated Pip feels frightened. This immediately establishes an atmosphere of fear which continues to build throughout the text. As Pip is beginning to cry, we feel sympathy for his terror. This sense of fear is amplified by the very sudden and surprising introduction of a new voice, that of the strange man who says, "Hold your noise." Whilst the introduction of a new character should have alleviated the sense of fear, it actually increases it because now Pip feels threatened not just by the landscape, but by a dangerous stranger too. So how have we answered the question? Well, in yellow, you'll see I've got a really direct answer to the question. It said, how does Dickens increase fear? And that's what I've answered. Then in green, I've got my structural methods that I've identified. So introducing the landscape and the introduction of a new voice. In pink, I've got my evidence to support those ideas, and this is the really important bit in blue. This is me explaining why those methods are used. So those are the things that the examiner will be looking for in your response. Okay, I want you to pause the video or stop the video, write up your answer. If you've downloaded the exam paper from my website, you can see that there are sentence starters in the booklet. So use those if they're helpful or change them if you need to. Okay, thanks very much for watching.